Hi everyone, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're doing well today. In today's live stream, what I want to share with you is the process behind hypothyroidism. So for 90% of people in the United States, the reason that they're hypothyroid, that their thyroid hormone is low, is because of Hashimoto's, an autoimmune thyroid condition where the immune system, which should be protecting the body, is actually destroying the thyroid. And this accounts for up to 90%. So 9 out of 10 people that are hypothyroid, this is the reason for it. Okay, so this is really important because a lot of people, they are placed on thyroid hormone replacement and they still don't feel well. This is a big issue. Or, you know, they don't feel well, they go to their doctor and they're told that everything's normal, that their labs are normal, but they don't feel well. And this is one of the main reasons. So what I want to do is I want to show you how this process causes hypothyroidism, first of all, so low thyroid hormone, that ultimately results in a lot of people being placed on thyroid hormone replacement. And I want to share this driving process with you because if you're going to improve the way that you feel, your metabolism, your energy levels, if you're going to improve brain fog, if those are issues, you know, if you're going to improve hair loss, if you're going to improve skin, nail health, if you're going to improve constipation, so many of these symptoms of hypothyroidism or low thyroid hormone, you have to address this driving process. So you need to understand it first. If you can understand what causes the hypothyroidism in most cases, then you can work on the factors that drive it. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's get started. So the way that your body makes thyroid hormone is your brain, which is this brown circle here. Okay, this represents the brain. And in the center of the brain, you've got a structure called the hypothalamus. Okay, this structure produces a hormone called TRH. That hormone stimulates your pituitary gland, another gland at the just right here behind your forehead, between your eyes. The pituitary gland produces TSH. That's thyroid stimulating hormone. Now the TSH is what your doctors will typically check to try and determine if your thyroid hormone is high or low. Okay? So the TSH stimulates the thyroid to produce thyroid hormone T4 and T3. 93% of your hormone is T4. Okay, so let's see. 93%, and 7% is T3. Now this is what the gland produces. A lot of this T4 gets converted into T3 in the liver, the GI tract, and in the tissues throughout the body. So this is how it works though, okay? So in a normal situation, your brain signals your thyroid to make hormone, you make hormone, it gets transported through the body, converted into T3, which is the active form. So this is active. And that's what your cells use to produce energy. Okay, that's how it normally works. Now, in 90% of hypothyroid cases or low thyroid hormone, what happens is that the immune system attacks the thyroid. Now, the way the leading theories on this, okay, the leading theories on this is that your immune system mistakenly attacks the thyroid. Okay, that it's mistakenly attacking the tissues of the thyroid. Now, let me explain. Your body, you have proteins throughout your body. Like your tissues, the tissues of your body are made up, a lot of your tissues are made up of proteins, okay? Proteins have a structure to them, okay? The things that your immune system will react to normally, like, let's say bacteria, right? A bacterial infection that you're exposed to, they have protein structures too. Their cell wall and different parts of the bacteria have protein within them, okay? So when your immune system sees a bacteria, it recognizes the protein structures of that bacteria and it mobilizes immune system cells to destroy it, okay? And the way that your immune system identifies that bacteria is through this protein structure. Okay, you with me? So if your tissues, the tissues throughout your body, there's a lot of different protein structures that make you. If they look similar to the bacterial protein, okay, that your immune system's attacking, your immune system may attack your tissues mistakenly. Now that process is called cross-reactivity, where your immune system reacts to a bacteria, for example. There's several different ways that this can occur, where it reacts to a bacteria and it also reacts to your tissues because your tissues are so similar in structure that the immune system cannot tell them apart. Now that similarity from you to something that's foreign is called molecular mimicry. To mimic and look like, that's what it's called, okay? Molecular mimicry. On a molecular level, your tissues look similar to the foreign thing that your immune system's attacking, and it can't tell them apart, so it reacts to both of them. And the act of reacting is called cross-reactivity, okay? So if you understand that concept, molecular mimicry and cross-reactivity, that's how we think the primary mechanism through which autoimmunity occurs, okay? So how this happens and what this, how this leads to thyroid autoimmunity is through that exact mechanism. Let me give you some examples, okay? So let's say, for example, that you have a chronic infection that you're not aware of. And we see this all the time. You see, people, when they think of infections, they often think of fevers and, GI tract gastroenteritis, or they think of, a fever, a cold, vomiting, nausea. They think of the typical, cold symptoms that you might experience if you had a virus or bacterial infection, right? They think of those things. But chronic infections, long-term infections, are typically much less symptomatic, right? They don't have that same presentation. Oftentimes, people don't even know that they have a chronic infection. So I'm going to give you a few examples here of things that we might find that chronically infect someone, or that infect someone for a long period of time, and that lead to what we believe or contribute to thyroid autoimmunity. And so, for example, I've got a few different bacteria here. So H. pylori, which is a bacteria that often causes stomach ulcers. Yersinia enterocolitica. Now, this particular bacteria is associated, both of these are associated with thyroid autoimmunity. Chlamydia, heat shock protein 60. Okay, and some of these things you may not be familiar with. The point here is that there are a number of different pathogens that we know can contribute to thyroid autoimmunity. And the mechanism through which they do that is that your thyroid has a protein structure, like I said earlier. And let's say that that protein structure is letters of the alphabet. Okay, that protein structure consists of a string of letters of the alphabet. So for example, let's say your thyroid tissue, the way that your immune system sees it is through a number of letters here. A, B, C, E, F, G, H. Let's say that is your protein sequence for the thyroid. But let's say that one of these infections here, hepatitis C, Mycobacterium avium, let's say that one of these bacteria, that you have a chronic infection, and that your immune system is reacting to one of these, and that the protein structure is very similar to the thyroid. Let's say it's H. pylori, and the protein structure is A, B, C, D, E, G, H. Well, it looks very similar. As a matter of fact, the first three amino acids, which are the building blocks of a protein, so let's say these are proteins. Let's say the first three are the exact same. Both have A, B, and C. So you see I have them joined together. Those are similar epitopes or similar peptides or partial sequences of the amino acid. And then at the end, the G and H are the same. So that's so similar that the immune cells, when they produce antibodies, these antibodies are like tags, and they match themselves to the amino acid sequence. Okay? So these antibodies are circulating, and they see this pathogen, but then they come across the thyroid, and they're like, wow, this looks a lot like the pathogen. I think it's the pathogen, and it sticks to it. Now that's your cross-reactivity. Because they look similar, that's the molecular mimicry. So now the antibodies are attaching themselves to the thyroid tissue. So now your immune system cells, you have other cells that are looking for these antibody tags. And when they find them stuck to the thyroid, what they do is they come behind and they start destroying the thyroid. Now, let me show you. I think visually, the best way is to just show you what this might look like. So the immune system starts reacting to the thyroid. Now the thyroid's healthy here, it's producing T4, T3 normally. But now you've got antibodies that are mistakenly attaching to thyroid tissue. So let's say this purple, these are antibodies. And the antibodies are tagging the thyroid, okay? They're tagging it. Now, immune cells come behind it. They see these tags and they're like, we've got to kill that. So then the immune system cells start attacking and destroying these tissues. And what that leaves you with less thyroid tissue, right? So now you've got destroyed thyroid tissue, there's inflammation, and you have less capacity because now some of the tissue is gone to produce these hormones. So it results in lower T4, lower T3, and what this does, the brain is monitoring these levels. So when these levels drop, the brain pumps out more TSH. It says thyroid stimulating hormone, go up because we need more output from the thyroid. These aren't enough. And so what happens is your doctor checks your TSH is high, and they say, you know what, you need a thyroid hormone replacement, so they prescribe you a replacement hormone. But is that treating the cause of the problem? Is it treating the cause of the problem? Of course not. It's not addressing the immune system reactivity. And the reality is that the doctors aren't bad people, they just don't have any tools to help you with this. There's no medication that will address this problem. What you have to do is you have to look for the cause, right? You have to look for the factors that are driving the process and try to remove them to calm down the immune system so that it stops attacking the tissue, or so that you dampen this process. The ultimate goal and the thing that we would love to see would be remission, but that may not be possible. But if you can at least dampen the process, a lot of things tend to improve because you lower the inflammatory load, and that has a really positive impact on system-wide biochemistry, which a lot of things tend to improve when you address and work on this immune process that's causing destruction of the tissues. So the approach that I recommend, the approach that I take when I'm working with people through this process of trying to identify the drivers of the autoimmunity is a 3-step process. Okay, so we try to take people through a systematized process that is repeatable, that uses laboratory testing to help us very specifically identify the factors that are driving the immune process as much as possible. So step number 1 is detect. So what we want to do is take a very in-depth health history so that we can try to understand the factors that are promoting the immune response. So we look to see, has the person traveled recently? What has changed? Has anything changed? When these symptoms started, did anything happen in proximity to, what we think is the beginning of the autoimmune process, or the Hashimoto's, for example? And we try to say, okay, from your history, what do we think is a likely mechanism contributing and causing this? And then we want to confirm that with testing. Okay, we want to confirm our suspicion with testing. So step 1 is detect. So that means a very in-depth health history to discuss, what has happened, how did this begin, and then based on that information, we want to do repeatable laboratory testing to try and identify and confirm our suspicions for driving factors. Now, I just have bacteria listed here, and viruses. The reality is that there's 3 different groups of things that we see very commonly drive the immune process. So 3 things. Drive the immune process, okay? So 1 are going to be foods that you're reacting to. So food sensitivities, pathogens, which we okay, and then 3 are chemicals. Now we can measure antibodies to all these. We can do blood tests and actually measure antibodies to all of these, and we can quantitatively determine if the immune system is reacting to foods, cooked and raw versions of food, pathogens, bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi, chemicals, metals, and a number of different chemicals used in agricultural and industrial processes. So we look at those things as potential drivers, and then we do look at, which is a little bit outside of the scope of what we're going to talk about here, but things that can cause loss of normal regulatory function of the immune system. Okay, so that's something that I talk about in other videos, but we don't really have time to get into it. I want to focus on the primary drivers. So we're just talking here, in this example, we're just giving a few of the potential pathogens that may contribute, okay? So step one is detect. So we detect this process. We do, testing and a very in-depth health history. And then when we go, one step beyond that, we're going to gather your test results. We look over everything that comes in and we correlate that. Does that match with our suspicion based on your health history? And then we put together a plan to remove, right? It makes sense if let's say you have H. pylori. Well, we detect that. Well, we're going to put together a program to remove it, right? Because we need to get rid of it. Detect, remove. So we're going to utilize diet, supplementation, and sometimes you may need medications to get rid of some of these things. So whatever it takes, we're going to help you to understand the process that you need to go through to best eliminate some of these potential drivers. So detect, step one. Once we get the data back from the testing, we put together a plan to remove. Once we go through a process of removal, then we repair. Step three. Now, the repair process is self-explanatory, right? Once we get rid of all this stuff, we want to do the best that we can to support recovery of the body, recovery of the immune system, recovery of all the tissues, and we go through very specific protocols based on your problem and what we see that is remaining after we've gone through the process of removal. But this is the process that leads to hypothyroidism for up to 90% of people in the United States. And very few people know this. They just think that they have an inability to produce hormone. They don't understand why. And all of these people, a large majority of these people, it's actually an immune process that's destroying the gland. And if that's not bad enough, I mean, this is not without consequence. The immune process that's attacking your thyroid can expand and attack other tissues. I mean, we all have heard of other autoimmune conditions. This one's just called Hashimoto's, but it could expand to other tissues. And some people will have Hashimoto's and they'll have Graves' disease. So they'll have the hyperthyroid version as well. Some people will have lupus. Some people could have inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. Other people might have autoimmunity to their stomach and have pernicious anemia. Other people might have celiac disease or rheumatoid arthritis or psoriasis. The list goes on and on, right? I mean, literally every tissue in the body, your immune system can react to it. So this immune process, this may be the opportunity to address and dampen that autoimmunity. If people don't take this seriously, if you've got to understand that this has serious consequences if left unchecked. If you don't do anything about it, then it can expand to other tissues and create a lot of other problems. Because quite frankly, some people, autoimmunity against their thyroid doesn't create that much of a problem for them. They take their thyroid hormone replacement and they're good. Other people, it is a major issue, major problem for them. And the thing is that changes over time. So it may start that it's not that big of an issue for you, but over time it gets significantly worse. So this is something that I really want to share with you guys. I hope I've explained it, fairly well. It is a bit of a tricky subject to explain because of mimicry and everything that we try to go through and take you through the process of understanding kind of how it happens. But I hope that you better understand how Hashimoto's and thyroid autoimmunity causes hypothyroidism. This is the primary mechanism, guys. 9 out of 10 people in the United States, this is what's causing your hypothyroidism. And if you don't know, if you haven't been checked for thyroid autoimmunity, you need to have some antibodies checked, antibody levels. I can tell you that if your problems began around puberty, pregnancy, or perimenopause, those are the times when this most commonly occurs. And we think it's because of the shift in the hormones and that polarizes the immune system. And when other factors are just right for this to start happening with maybe some low antioxidant status, some things like that, it can drive and trigger this process. So anyway, I hope this helps you guys. If you're struggling with this, or if you're struggling with your thyroid or any of the symptoms related to that, and you just want somebody to help you look at this and try to give you another perspective, maybe collaborate with you and your doctors, try to help you, give you another perspective and some other tools through which to try and address this. I work with people around the world and across the United States. You're welcome to come visit us at our office. We'd love to have you, but we can work with you via distance consulting across the US and worldwide. Just go to www.thyroidconsult.com, and you can learn all about that. Otherwise, you know, if there's anything else that we can do for you, if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll do everything that we can to help you. We have a lot of videos online that you can watch to, you know, try and help you help yourself and educate yourself. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and hope this has been helpful. Talk to you guys soon.